Hello everyone, how's it going? So a bit of backstory before we get into the core of the story. Ever since Fortnite, every company in gaming has been trying to create their own Fortnite live game, willing to spend hundreds of millions of dollars just for the hope that their game will become the next Fortnite. And Fortnite is now dying because it's not dead, but it is seeing significant drop off when it comes to player counts. They had to lay off over 1,000 people. It's not looking good for the future of that live service, and that game is about 10 years old, I believe. I believe it released in early access in 2017. Regardless, the game is significantly old, and Sony, along with other companies, tried to create their own live service. Sony, in particular, purchased Bungie, who was the developer of Destiny, for over $3 billion, and we can see how that's going right now because they put all their eggs into Marathon, and it's not looking good for that live service. It hasn't even cracked 100K on PC, and I know a lot of people say this is a Sony property, so most people are playing on Sony's platform, but we've seen this story before. Everyone tries to create trivial objections in order to try and add more fortitude to their own side of the argument, but regardless, looking at this number, it's not looking good, and Sony has shut down a lot of live services. They have had good successes, such as Helldivers 2, but for the most part, they've had also major disasters, such as Concord, which was one of the biggest failures in entertainment history. They refund everyone's money after 2 weeks the game came out, and they just completely catapulted this project. In fact, some people tried to revive this project and Sony shut them down. They just wanted to wipe their hands clean of this, but this is not going away, let's face it. They even had an Amazon special hoping to create more interest, and that was when the game was already announced to be shut down. So it was just like a very terrible situation for them. But this doesn't mean live services are completely dead. They're just more hostile than they've ever been before because, one, live services are toxic. A lot of people, when you hear a live service, they just immediately shut down because it's a new game they have to get used to, a new game they have to invest their money and time into, and most people have already settled into their live service of choice. And it doesn't mean it's impossible. We've seen this with Valve when it came to Deadlock. This is a game that literally is an invite-only title, and it's seen better numbers than Marathon. Granted, this is a free game, but you still need an invite to even play this game. And yeah, and when it came to Sony and shutting down all these live services, such as the God of War live service game that they shut down, it resulted in Blue Point Games just completely gone again embodied, which was horrible because I loved Shadow of the Colossus remake, but it is what it is. They also shut down a Spider-Man live service game that they were going to develop, and yeah, you can see it's just been a bloodbath when it comes to that. They still have the Horizon game that's in development, but I don't have hope for it because, let's face it, when it comes to Horizon right now, they try to turn it into the next Uncharted. It's not happening. As a fan of Horizon, I've platinumed every major Horizon game. It's just not happening. We saw the Hunter-Gatherers trailer. It just like, I don't know what they're thinking there. They try to make an Overwatch clone Monster Hunter game, and it looks nothing like Horizon despite it being canon to the franchise, and Horizon 3 has been delayed because of that entire situation. So not exactly a good not exactly a good situation. Like, as someone who's been hoping for Horizon 3 to come out this generation, it seems that it will come out on the PlayStation 6 when that console's $1,200. But it seems that The Last of Us, which was also part of the chopping block, also had it was almost completed. So you can see here from Pirate Nation, the game was in development for 7 years and nearly 80% complete. Like, 7 years, and Sony decided to take the axe to it. So we can see here from this article from Insider Gaming, the director of the canceled Last of Us Online title recently opened up of how he was informed about the cancellation a day before it was revealed. A day. Like, can you imagine you put 7 years of your life into a project, and then the day before the company just comes out and shuts you down? That's how you know how horrible things are. And as I stated before, Sony has tried with live service games, and everything has been either canceled or put on life support, especially their two big brands, which I'm pretty sure right now they have huge talks with Bungie right now about fixing this right now and fixing this, but I don't know how things are going to go with that. Regardless, for those unaware, The Last of Us Online project was known as Factions, was canceled in 2023 as Naughty Dog shifted to its single-player titles. Former PlayStation executive Shigeru Yoshida thought it was great, but when he played it, now the director of the canceled title has provided some insights of what transpired. During a new interview on the Lancey Lee podcast from Tokyo, Last of Us Online director Vint Aguga, I'm terrible with names, Vinit Awal? I'm sorry, Vinit, let's say that, shed some light of how the game was cancelled. Vinit first spoke about the boom in gaming industry during the pandemic, noting that online games had experienced a significant boost around 2020. Yeah, when that happened, it was literally lightning in a bottle, and so many companies have been trying to recapture that. I remember that Ubisoft said that the reason Assassin's Creed Valhalla did so well was because of the pandemic. It was a good, meaty game that would last you months, and all you had to pay was like $60, $70 for it. As much as I liked Assassin's Creed Valhalla, it is a game that you cannot play in one sitting. It is a massive title. So if you're looking for a game that will last, and to me is of quality, go for that. But you know, a lot of companies still think they were living during that period, which is when Sony, like all others, decided to put a lot of money into online gaming. That is how The Last of Us Online was able to secure its funding, and Vinit stated that the game was doing very, very well internally with the team development at almost 80% completion. It was very close to done. However, over the next couple of years, as people started returning to their office, spending on online game dropped significantly, which led studios to reduce their projects as well. I just don't know how this didn't resonate with anyone. Like, eventually this was going to end, and you would assume that common sense would take over and say, hey, this is not going to last, and the amount of time and money we would need to put into these projects in order to capitalize on this would take so long that it's just not necessary. Instead, they should have focused that money on games that are doing well right now. If they have a live service game like I don't know, was Helldivers 2 even released that time? I don't know, but they should have focused more on the future of right now instead of the here and now, and that's exactly what happened. And look, The Last of Us still has a very robust online community, especially with the first game, even though it's filled with cheaters. Like, Naughty Dog used to be known very well for its online multiplayer games, Uncharted 2, 3, 4, and The Last of Us. They did some really great online experiences. In fact, I remember when Uncharted 2 came out, a lot of people jumped ship to the PlayStation because, one, it was free online gaming, and Uncharted 2 was just that good. Like, they have actually done a lot of really good online games, and I wish they would go back to that in a way, but I think they're just focusing on the Heretic Protocol right now. But there are rumors that The Last of Us Part 3 is in development as well, but we'll see. Then it added that eventually the studio had to make a decision whether to go ahead with The Last of Us Online or make the next game that Neil Druckmann was directing, which is basically led them to pick a game which are kind of bread and butter of the studio rather than this experimental game that I was working on, he added. The Last of Us Online director described it as a devastating moment and soul-crushing for him, as he spent 7 years working on the title. Moreover, he revealed that after serving as a director on the game, he learned that The Last of Us was being canceled 24 hours before it was announced to the public. That has gotta be horrible, man. I feel for you, but considering Sony's just track record of poor management and just all these live service slop games that they just kind of shove out hoping it will become the next Fortnite, it's just horrible. Like, we get all these live service projects, but God forbid we get a Resistance Trilogy remaster or a Killzone remastered, which I was hoping Blue Point Games would do, but you know, those things would be sure things. They would not make oodles of money, but they would make some money. But, you know, it's just how companies are operating right now. In other news and recent social media posts, Neil Druckmann, the creator of The Last of Us, alluded to a little more in the pipeline. Additionally, Terminal Wars, a new studio that was inspired by the canceled Last of Us Online projects. So, yeah. So right now, the project that a lot of people assume Neil Druckmann is also working on is The Last of Us Part 3. It's heavily inferred that the script is done and everything, but they're working full on Heretic Protocol. But yeah, it just highlights how Sony's just been very poor when it comes to management and like this stuff. Like, they put all their eggs into these live service games, and ultimately the companies that are developing them ultimately are the ones who suffer because of it. And they just, I don't know where their mindset is. Like, do they think that gamers are just gonna hop onto these new live services after spending so much time and money on other live services? And it is possible, like I stated with Deadlock, but it has to be something that's really good right out the bat. Like with Horizon Hunting Grounds, like a lot of people looked at a trailer, including Horizon fans like myself, and we were just looking at this and like, who is this for? Like, why would you play this over Monster Hunter Wilds or Monster Hunter World? And on top of it, even if the game is good and has a solid foundation to it, it's just like the amount of hurdles and the amount of investment you have to put behind that game before it actually becomes a success, it's just Herculean. And on top of it, you don't know how players are going to react. Like I said, with Concord, they thought this game was going to be like the new Star Wars. Like there is Star Wars and it's going to have these huge worlds and collection, and we saw how that turned out. It just really shows that a lot of these executives are just, they have no idea what gamers want. As much as I don't like Strauss Zelnick from Take-Two, he said it best. He said, like, I don't know anything about GTA 6. He's like, I let the developers handle that. I don't even really play video games. It's just like, let them do the project. I'm just here funding it. I feel like a lot of companies just fail to understand that. Let the game developers who play video games make the games. That's how these successes are made. That's how games like Doom, Wolfenstein, Halo are made. It's because game developers who love video games making games that people would love. Baldur's Gate 3, like Doom. I already said Doom. It's just like, it's becoming such a rarity nowadays. But I do feel for him in the sense that the game just didn't do well when I clicked on that. Now I'm gonna get nothing but Microsoft ads. But yeah, what do you think about all this? I think that Sony probably did the right thing canceling this. It's like what Sega did with Hyenas. Like, even though that game was essentially finished, they knew the reputational damage, and not to mention just the money needed to fund the game, because you still have to pay for servers and everything like that. Not to mention continued development was just so high that it wasn't needed. Like, I know a lot of people would say the counter argument to that is that just release it and see how things go. You have no idea how much money goes into that just to keep a game alive. Sometimes it's best just to cut your bet. Just look at what happened with Highguard. The second Tencent pulled their money, instant collapse. It just everything happened. And again, with Concord, we saw that once the game went live, the amount of time needed and the amount of development just to fund the game post-launch is just as significant as the game being developed, because you have to keep all those people on staff, you have to keep developing the game, and you have to hope this game is a success. Unlike you trying to pitch a new project that you're working on, with these types of live service games, you have to hope that it continues to see success. And maybe that was what Sony was looking at. They were like, hey, this game may have done internally well, which I also don't know how I feel about that, because we saw with Highguard, there are a lot of toxic positivity when it comes to the gaming industry. But I had faith in this project because they already had a sure thing with The Last of Us multiplayer with the original games. So it could have been just more of that, just amplified, but it is what it is. I do feel bad for the guy, and I feel like, yeah, you look at this and you're like, hey, I wasted 7 years of my life and so many wakeless, sleepless nights just trying to make this game a possibility, and all of it goes down the toilet. But sometimes you do have to cut off the finger to save the hand. But tell me, what do you think in the comments below? Do you think they should have released it and just hedged their bets and hope for the best? Or do you think they did the right thing and said, this is not going to work out, we need to focus on things that will actually make a profit, especially with the growing crisis when it comes to computing parts? Like we just saw, they raised the prices of PlayStation consoles by over $100. So maybe that's what they were looking at. Because at the end of the day, we don't know the full financial situation of these big companies. And right now, a lot of them, like, I know a lot of people are going to say stop defending the multi-billion-dollar companies, but at the same time, like, look at the world that we're living in. Even though I think that the only reason they raised the prices for PlayStation consoles was because of GTA 6. And seeing that game is going to come out on consoles first, then PC, if you want to play GTA 6 when it comes out, and apparently it's going to run the best on PlayStation 5 Pro, you're going to have to cough off $900, and that's before tax. Either way, tell me what you think in the comments below. That's enough of me rambling. Goodbye, and have a good day.